right, thank you so much. We are so excited to be here and share this session on connecting sustainability design and play through Minecraft, an incredible partnership between Mojang Studios, the Florida Scholastic Esports League, North America Scholastic Esports Federation, and the U.S. Department of State ECA. So we're very excited to be here. We're going to do some quick introductions. And Lila, I'm going to let you start.
Oh, hi, thanks so much. Hi, Lila Bowman. I work with the Minecraft Education Edition team in Microsoft. Previously, I helped lead NASEF and connecting learning and esports, and have been a great partner with Eric as we run the Florida Scholastic Esports League together. So, happy to share the story of Farmcraft and how it's impacted so many students.
And as was said, I am Eric Leitner. I am a STEM and computer science instructional facilitator for Broward County Public Schools, the 6th largest school district in the US, and a NASEF advisor, and of course work with Lila directly on the Florida Scholastic Esports League. And it took a lot to get to where we are. So we're going to talk a little bit about this program, how it came to be, what kind of reach it had, and what the goals were and the outcomes. It was an exciting journey for us. But before we do that, I'm actually going to show you a little bit of what Farmcraft is. And we're going to start that with a trailer. So let's take a look at the trailer for the program real quick.
Always fun. That's always fun to watch.
I know, I can't help but bob whenever the music plays, and I'm like remembering that I'm on camera, and I'm like, don't bob too much, Eric. You're live. I'm going to jump to the next slide, which has some of our goals and requirements that we wanted for the program. But Lila, briefly, let's talk about how this program even happened in the first place. Like, how did this connection get made, and what led to this amazing opportunity?
Yeah, Farmcraft, began actually in March of 2020 when NASEF, partnering with the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City, actually was looking for a way to connect students that were stuck at home and had them utilize Minecraft as a Minecraft Education Edition specifically for them to connect with each other, connect with families. So following some build challenges that had been successful in the United States around building your, a stuck at home challenge, building your bedroom, or building out the COVID vaccine, building a public information or library, around the COVID pandemic. That began a relationship with the State Department, utilizing Minecraft Education Edition and NASEF and Scholastic Esports as a way for students to grow their STEM and CS skills, to connect with each other, and to really develop this concept of esports diplomacy, right, through virtual exchange. How can we have students from all around the world connect on a platform, build together, challenge each other, come up with new ideas, and really become better people? And so really far back, Eric, I was a Foreign Service officer. I was based in Mexico City. Maybe that played a role. I don't know. But what I do know is that in about a year, we have been able to not only grow the program around public esports diplomacy, but also to build all kinds of challenges, and of which Farmcraft was one of them, right? Farmcraft was a fully formed game. So after the success of those programs, the State Department and ECA, the collaboratory, approached us and said, that we wanted to teach students and youth around the world about sustainability and climate change. And could we come up with a game to do so? So I think I actually just called you, said, Eric, can you give me a hand?
Yeah. And that is really where it started. And then this was a passion for me because I started my educational journey as a teacher, as a science teacher, trying to reach students and teach these concepts and integrate these concepts in a way that was passionate for them. And one of the things that became evident very, very, very early is there was this market, especially at that time in the mid 2000s, where educational companies were developing games with the goal of teaching students concepts, science concepts or ELA concepts or math concepts. But the students saw right through this stuff. And it was something I noticed like right away, right? The students always saw through it. They would sit down at the computer and they would go, this is not a game. You're just making me do math, or this is not a, this is just a science lesson. You've fooled me into something that's not even that much fun to play anyway, right? And what has been great in this shift we've seen, even as I watched some of the fantastic streams that we've seen here as part of this program and this fest, is that shift has now changed to how do we take existing games and make that, or how do we create games that are games first, but deliver an educational experience? And of course, Minecraft, there's been a community around that for a decade that's been phenomenal at doing that. So I was excited to jump in, excited to see that grow and deliver real science content in a way that was fun and exciting and engaging for students. And we didn't realize how big that would even be. And it definitely surpassed our vision of what it would be. And one of the great things is working with the Department of State. We made a goal, and you can see it on our goals here, of making sure we were including real world science and that we were including scientists who were the boots on the ground for these things. So we did a series of live streams. We did a series of game playthroughs where we invited those scientists to play the game with us on live stream and talk about what was real and true to life and what was, maybe too difficult a concept to present in something like Minecraft, but deliver the real educational experience regardless, because they're hearing it from the mouth of the experts, right? And that is something we wanted to push, was how do we get this information from the experts in those fields into the ears, the eyes, the hands of students? And that is what Farmcraft became.
Yeah, it's essentially, for those of you who are watching, Farmcraft really is a 3-part series. It's the game, an in-game challenge where students and youth build teams and compete to have an improved harvest. But it was also a series of virtual exchanges with scientists and experts, and including farmers, with students, so that they could see how they could improve their yields. So an important part was virtual exchange. And really, a third part was the partnership between the Department of State's Collaboratory, the Agricultural Policy Department, NASEF as well, the North America Scholastic Esports Federation, and Minecraft Education Edition, coming together to be able to, to have a new platform for learning.
Very much so. And let's take a look at some of the elements that we wanted to make sure were included in that from a scientific standpoint, but also from very much teaching students. And again, our lens wasn't a lens of these are the best farming practices that are out there. It was a lens of we want to give you and put in the hands of the students all of the tools, or at least as many as we could, that are modern farming practices, and let you decide what choices to make, very much the way that farmers nowadays make choices. Are you going to go solely organic? Are you going to use certain pesticides? Are you going to genetically engineer or modify your seeds? And what choices are you going to make? How will that affect outcomes? How will that affect yield? And more importantly, the students were journaling and diarying their decisions and their choices along the way in video diaries, explaining their choices to us. And even if they didn't get the outcome that they wanted, they could still explain their reasoning and their choice behind their choices, why they felt that was still the best option. Because maybe it wasn't the best option because of the yield, but it was the best option for an environmental reason. And we wanted the students to have that voice. So you can see on the screen here some of the things that we really wanted to focus on. And we wanted student choice to be a big part of that. We wanted to put them in the role of the same choices that farmers have to make.
They had diverse biomes, which meant you had to be, originally the idea was we would have biomes that reflected important areas of the world so that kids could not only farm and learn about farming in an area that was similar to where they lived, but also to go and experiment in areas that around the world where they were not familiar and see how again, experiment within this sandbox.
And we got to talk on live streams and while in game, and students, participating in these live streams with the experts on so many of these topics. And we've had wonderful scientists to work with at Department of State, Dr. Adam Cornish, Dr. Kate Furby, and so many others that were part of those live streams. And they were phenomenal. And that was one of the things that students got a lot of takeaway from and started to change their decision-making based on what the experts had to say. So real quick, I do want to share one of the student entries. So when I talked about student diaries, right, I want to share one of those. And we had teams from literally all over the world. We'll share that in just a moment. But I do want you to see one of those right now. So let's see if we can get that video to play.
My favorite memory is when we got the best score just the day before the close of each Farmcraft stage. We found that we performed better under pressure.
What I liked most about Farmcraft was that I could make new friends. Every time we finished a challenge, we played music to celebrate.
Cosas graciosas que me acuerdo es cuando al principio empezamos y todos nos queríamos subir al tractor y casi siempre quedaba alguno corriendo por atrás del tractor. Y también la vez
we can mute the video. We can talk to you. You'll see that kids spoke not only about what they learned, but how much the SEL component, how much they enjoyed being together and playing together. A large part of the game-based learning is this SEL component, right? It's as much about what you learn about yourself as the content. We had players and teams from around the world, and I know we'll share that data with you, but it was localized. It was in English. That was a request from the Department of State to have this in English, but certainly we had submissions in all different kinds of languages that we had to localize. So it was great.
And it was amazing to see how teams used either the in-game tools, such as Immersive Reader, to help them participate in if they were non-English speakers or non-native speakers, as well as being creative in their diaries and using text-to-speech programs and things like that, and translator tools, just to be able to participate and be able to engage, which they did very, very effectively. So that was a phenomenal outcome, and the strategies that the teams employed, some of them were very unexpected, and that's what we wanted. In fact, if we have time, we do have one story for that. If not, we'll share it in the Q&A. But very quickly, let's look at some of that data. So let's see if I can pull that data up. There we go.
So year one, just as to give you an example, which was essentially for the Department of State, was almost a hypothesis. Can we build a game that can meet our policy goals, that's fun, like you said, has kids stretch and learn? And honestly, we surprised ourselves, right? 37 countries, as you can see, around the world. Some, countries more involved than others. Like Uruguay was a strong participant. Tons of students from ages of 8 to about 18. That was the age range that Farmcraft allowed. And we also had adult sponsors, and those adult sponsors really varied. Some were educators, some came from non-governmental organizations, some were parents that had kids that really wanted to play. So it was really varied in terms of the adult sponsors. And I tell you that, looking at how the submissions, and we can talk about the mechanics of the game next, Eric will share that with you, was that really you could see that this was youth-led. Youth, they learned about the game from promotion, whether it was from American spaces around the world or just those from NASEF, and really, leaned into farming. I mean, Minecraft has a huge farming component into it. It's easy to play, but it really touched an interest that students had to figure out, where does my food come from and how can I address the issue of food security?
Absolutely. And you mentioned the adult sponsors. We did get returned video testimonials from all of our adult sponsors who participated. This is one example. I'll just play a little bit of it.
I am the adult sponsor of the
I think
Team
the audio might still be. Oh, there you
I'm
go.
also a teacher, and during Farmcraft, schools were closed in our country, so it was a good opportunity for my students to keep in touch, to collaborate, to cooperate, and to have fun while learning together.
going to jump ahead a little bit. And one of the other things that we took away from this, and this is something that I think is truly important to STEM learning, right? We talk about STEM learning all the time, and I've seen this done very right in STEM learning, and I've seen it done very wrong in STEM learning. And that is when students find a loophole, when students find something that is broken or wrong, or a way to kind of circumvent the rules because there's no rule against the way to do it, that is not something to be punished. That is something to be celebrated. Right? Because that means that our students are truly thinking, in this case, quite literally, I think for Minecraft, it's a good analogy, but outside the box, right? Outside the block, maybe, we'll go with that. We had one team and they did such a great job with this. And I think we'll end with this right before we jump into those, but we are gonna have, of course, a Q&A after. We had one team that basically figured out a loophole in the world. And I'm gonna share what they did instead of announcing it to everyone or even using it to their advantage, because they didn't win. They informed us instead.
So you can see in the captions that they had found a loophole in the game and made a video of that loophole, that back end, to show how they could have utilized that to their advantage and win, but they didn't. They actually made an informative video to talk to us about what they had learned and what that little loophole looked like. It was for the game designer, always, you know, I think his response was, wow, I did not know that. That's really good. It was unexpected. But for those of us, for those who designed the game and from the Department of State to NASEF, this is exactly what we were looking at, right? This is the kind of, you know, like we said, unintended learning and great character that we saw from the team.
Very much so, right? And it's you know, we gave them the sort of white hat hacker award as a result, right? Because they took this, and rather than exploiting it, which it is an exploit in the game that we didn't even know about, found a way to inform us of it in this incredible way, which was such a delight to watch, such a delight to see. And you can see the chaos that ensues, admittedly, as a part of it. But we're open to those experiences. We want the students to try to break through those barriers. So that's something to be celebrated and not something necessarily to say we're not interested in. We only have about a minute left. So very quickly, we are going to just share some people that were part of this project and some Twitters worth sharing beyond our own. Of course, NASEF, the organization of Florida Scholastic Esports League, Minecraft Education Edition. Brian Dickman at Cleverlike, who was our developer of the world. You've seen other sessions with him, and that's been phenomenal. And we'll share more of this in the Q&A. And then finally, we do have some resources. And again, we'll share some of these links with you in the Q&A as well, and happy to, as well as with the slide deck.
The great news, Eric, we should share it, right?
There is, and we only have 20 seconds. So we're going to do it fast, but Farmcraft 2.0 is happening, is coming. So if that is something you know students would be interested in, keep your eyes on some of those links. So I do want to thank you. I want to thank Lila. I want to thank the whole team at NASEF and everyone who made this happen. And you can join us for the Q&A session and some gameplay in the Imagine Q&A room. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you there.